Hey, this is Amy Chambers. And if you want to learn the 6 and 7 figure science to success and how to significantly increase your revenue and learn how to successfully build professional relationships, you should be listening to the Sell Without Selling podcast with my good friend, Stacey O'Byrne.
If you're ready to get out of your own way to follow the 7-figure science of success, then welcome to Sell Without Selling. Tune in with renowned international speaker Stacey O'Byrne as she shows you how mastering relationships, achieving the proper mindset, and attaining the necessary motivation will catapult you away from failure and onto your journey to greatness. And now, here is your host, Stacey O'Byrne.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Sell Without Selling. I'm your host, Stacey O'Byrne, and I believe that learning the art and the science of how to sell without selling is the only way to achieve high 6 and 7-figure success. I'm really excited to get into today's episode. And really quick, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or sales professional and you haven't hit the level of success that you've wanted or needed, or if you're stuck and needing a pivot in your business and your success, or maybe you just want more and you understand the importance of having a coach to help identify the blind spots, increase accountability, and help with success strategies to take you, your business, your income, and your success to the next level. If this sounds like something for you, then head over to pivotpointadvantage.com/I want success. That's pivotpointadvantage.com/I want success. There's a quick application there that will lead to a personal phone call with me to see if we're a great fit for each other. All right, let's do this. Today I'm speaking with a really good friend of mine, Amy Chambers. Amy has over 21 years of experience in the financial services industry and has spent 15 of those in leadership. When she was 17, one of the fathers of a family she babysat for asked her to work for them every day during the summer before her freshman year in college. She declined, saying she needed to get a real job. The father then suggested she interview at the bank to be a teller. She didn't even know that this man worked at a bank, let alone which one. Then Rich Gold was a district manager of M&T Bank, a regional Buffalo-based bank. Today, Rich Gold is president and COO of M&T Bank, which will become the 12th largest bank in the country after its current and ongoing $7.6 billion acquisition of People's United. Amy took the teller job at M&T Bank and worked as a teller during summers and breaks all throughout college. As a floating teller, she had the unique opportunity to work for a week or two at a time at roughly 20 different M&T branches and observed an interesting phenomenon. Even though each of these branches were part of the same organization and only a few miles apart, their cultures were wildly different. When she realized it all came down to the same one factor, leadership, her profound interest and obsession with understanding leadership was born. In 2004, upon graduating the University of Notre Dame with her bachelor's in political science and philosophy, she joined M&T's management development program and worked in the DC metro area for the next 3 years, holding each and every role in a branch, including branch manager. She obtained her investment securities and insurance licenses and found a true love for wealth management as well. In 2007, she relocated to Southern California so she could pursue her MBA at USC, where she concentrated in marketing and general management and spent a few years as a branch manager at both Wells Fargo and US Bank. She's been a part of numerous clubs, organizations, and boards during her time in school and after, including director of communications for multiple alumni clubs. By the time she was 28, she was managing a 15 branch territory and overseeing 260 people for B of A, Bank of America, and has held numerous district manager and regional director roles before ultimately becoming chief operating officer for a credit union. She still keeps in touch with Rich Gold, especially now since they hold the same title. During her years as COO, her organization has grown to assets at a rate of nearly 20% annually, from 465 million to 605 million in its first 1.5 years. With the help of Amy's leadership throughout her career, she's led over 500 people to success. She's worked with and for every kind of leader imaginable. And in her 2 decades of observing, studying, coaching, and mentoring others, she's developed a framework of principles that work every time to help transform culture, engage people, and deliver results every time. After losing her most beloved uncle to ALS in 2015, and also going through a traumatic breakup that same year, Amy made a decision to transform her mindset and put hundreds of hours into studying the principles of mindset, satisfaction, happiness, and fulfillment. She worked to overcome fear, take control of her destiny, and pursue goals she had only dreamt of, but never quite made reality. Amy trained herself from being unable to run a mile without having to walk into a marathon runner. In the past 6 years, she's ran 166 half marathons, 9 full marathons, and hundreds of other races, totaling almost 10,000 miles. She also became an avid skier, something she was once deathly afraid to do. Amy is a longtime cyclist, rollerblader, tennis player, and photographer. Some of her favorite accomplishments include a gallery opening she hosted for her photography and biking a few 100-mile century rides. In 2020, she bought her dream home and currently resides in Long Beach, California with her boyfriend of 4.5 years, David. Amy prides herself on reading a book every single month. She now is finishing up her own first leadership book and is eager to make a career change into helping other leaders find the same success and passion for the leadership game as she has. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation with Amy. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thanks for the wonderful bio. It got me excited just hearing about it. Awesome stuff. I'm like, did I do all that?
I know, really. It's like, I get so excited. I can't wait to meet the person. I'm like, oh yeah, I already know her. So how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, as always. Every day's a choice. And so choosing to be happy is how I start my morning every day. It's doing great.
I love that. I love that. As a matter of fact, our tagline is choice is a powerful thing and suffering is always optional. So that's phenomenal. So, I'd like to introduce our listeners to you because I have the pleasure of really knowing you. And something that really impressed me was how many times you made the Dean's List. I mean, you made the Dean's List 7 out of 8 times, right? What does it take to really strive for excellence like that? I mean, what does it require of you? Was that a goal you had set? Share that with us.
Sure. Probably the first thing that got me motivated is my parents told me if I didn't make the Dean's List, they were going to stop helping pay for it. And so that got me fired up quick. And I half joke, the first semester was the one I didn't make it. And we had quite the conversation when I came home for freshman break. But, a few things happened. So first things first, I started off in what I thought someone else wanted me to do. I started off as a biology, chemistry, double major, pretty aggressive, schedule for a young, freshman at Notre Dame. I came in thinking, oh, I'm smart. This is going to be a cakewalk, kind of like how high school was. I immediately found myself surrounded with valedictorians and salutatorians of, the best schools all over the country. And I suddenly was, oh gosh, I'm a kind of a small fish now in a big pond. And what I found is that, to have success in anything, you really have to love what you're doing and be passionate
Mm.
about it. And that's what's going to keep you going when it gets hard. And it will get hard with anything. And so you can't be there. And when I say there, I mean anywhere for anyone else but yourself. You can't, be there for someone else's reasons. And so what I realized as freshman year was kind of winding down is, I'm not passionate about becoming a doctor. That was a childhood thing that I thought mom and dad wanted me to do. It sounded good, but speaking and rotating and ultimately helping other people, see things. That's really where it's at. And so I switched my major to political science and philosophy. I found myself in smaller lectures rooms where we began to talk about ideas and concepts, and had all sorts of different ideas at that time. Maybe I'll go to law school and become an attorney. Maybe I'll end up in business, which is, what happened. But what I found is that my passion and love was greater somewhere else. And once that was in place, the hard work, the late nights, the focus around, work and studies became easier, or at least it became a lot more exciting. It was still hard work, and it required discipline and habit formation of, I got to get these things done. I can't just wait till the last minute, but I enjoyed it. And as I've looked at anyone that was ever great at anything, Kobe Bryant in basketball, or, the best celebrities, sports athletes, anyone that's really had major success, they all say the same thing. I loved what I was doing. And so if you're feeling like work or school or whatever it is a chore, something might be wrong there. And it becomes very hard to achieve and be successful because you just don't have the stamina to put the hours in. So that's really, I think, what allowed me to be able to do that.
Nice, nice. So then you experienced or had your first professional experience at the bank, right?
Right. Yeah.
So when you got into banking, is that what made you realize this is it for me? This is my home.
The biggest thing that happened, probably was my first year out of college, and I was going through this management development program. I was spending time as a banker at the branch, and so for those of us that are in financial services, it's that person that sits at a desk that opens accounts, takes your loan application, calls you to tell you when CD rates have gone up or down. And I had this couple come in. And they were, sort of in a really tough situation, lots of credit card debt, and they were struggling with bills, and they just didn't know what to do, and they were looking for some advice. And we ended up doing a home equity loan for them at that time. This is back in late 2004, early 2005. And through that process, we were able to consolidate all of their credit card debt into this one single payment, pretty low interest rate. They were having a tough time getting approved. It was kind of on the line. I was able to call the underwriters and get the deal to go through, especially by pointing out how much it was going to improve their situation, their debt to income, everything was going to become better because of it. And what ended up happening a few months later, probably half a year later, I'll never forget her. Her name was Sandra Thompson and her husband was Tim. And Sandra Thompson came in and found me in the branch, and she had this beautiful bouquet of flowers and a $50 gift card. And she says, "I really want you to have this." And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is what I do. This is not necessary." And she says, "You don't understand. You've changed our life, saved our marriage." And I said, "Well, gosh,
Wow.
what do you mean?" And she told me in tears that at the time they had first met with me, and something kind of seemed wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but that they were very much contemplating getting a divorce at that time. And,
Mm.
the reason why is just, financial strain. They weren't making their bills. And after they had gone through the process where we had consolidated all that debt, they had saved about 450 to 500 bucks a month in terms of income. They had taken a cruise out of Baltimore, one of those, 3 or 4 day weekend cruises, spent time together and realized that they still loved each other. They wanted to be together, and that maybe things weren't as bad as they thought. They just had gotten a little stuck. But now that I had freed up all this breathing room for them financially, that they were able to go out to dinner. They could kind of relax a little more. They weren't so stressed all the time. They found their way back to those feelings that they had had. And at
Mhm.
that moment, I realized that that something really special had happened there, that I had the power to change people's lives, and not only a right to ask questions and get to know people to find out how to help them, but a responsibility to do that. And I kind of never looked back. I realized, maybe law school wasn't for me. I could help a lot of people in financial services. more and more things happened like that where people came back and just said, "You changed my life. You changed my life." And it was always really meaningful to me. And I realized that my passion and my calling in this world is to help people improve their lives. And so that set everything off in that direction.
So for you, it was more than a job. You actually went above and beyond and looked to be a solution provider, a
That's right.
problem solver.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So question. I know leadership, especially from your bio, leadership really intrigued you. It really became a focus for you. I mean, to have the realization in your mid to late 20s that environments were impacted by the common denominator, and that was the diversity in leadership. That's pretty significant at such a young age. I'd like to go back and ask you, when was the first time you remember leadership really impacting you, and how?
Yeah. And hi, Rich, if you're watching this, exciting to be able to share this. So it was back at M&T Bank. I think I realized it a lot more, through working at M&T all through my 20s. But the first moment I really knew, and this is a little bit of a tough story, but this happens. And by the way, we all make mistakes. And so, no harm to this particular individual. But that summer, right before I went to college, my freshman year, the branch I was working at had been doing, fairly well. And we had sort of earned a visit from the powers that be, some district and regional managers, as I know them now, came to our branch meeting one morning, and we were to be there early, and there was bagels and juice, and we were going to go through some numbers and talk about things. And I was so young. I mean, I had the only job I'd ever had really until this teller job in the summers was babysitting. And so I kind of just didn't quite know what was going on. And, they talked, sort of the entire meeting about, where the branch stood, where the region stood, a lot of things that were kind of over my head and I didn't understand, but ultimately, some profit and revenue reports. And then they, the branch opened and they went and spent some time with the branch manager in their office. But they had made this commitment and sort of said, "Hey, we're going to come around, we're going to talk to everyone, we're going to see everybody." And a little bit of time passed and they left, and they had not come back behind the teller line to address us. And the teller next to me, her name was Debbie at that time, she got very upset. She locked her drawers and went off the line back to the break room. And, this was probably one of the first moments that I felt empowered to do something without asking permission. This was my first real job. And I didn't even say, "Hey, I need to go take a break or see what that's about." I locked my drawer too and left my post at my teller window. And I went back to the break room and I found her crying. And I said, "Gosh, Debbie, what's wrong?" And she says, "I put so much work into this morning. I'm wearing a suit. I bought a blazer. I did my hair. I did my makeup. This was my chance." And I said, your chance for what? What are you talking about?" And she says, "Well, I've been doing so well lately with my referrals and balancing, and I really want to get to the platform. I want to become a personal banker." And, the branch manager's kind of been saying, "We need to get the district manager in support of that for me to be able to promote you." And they didn't even say hi to me. They didn't even address me. They don't even know who I am. And I had a couple of thoughts. One was probably, why do you need the district manager to, approve of you? You've got the branch manager right here in leadership watching what you do every day. Isn't that enough? I mean, why doesn't she just tell the district manager, "This person's great talent, I want to promote them"? But two, what I realized is that her whole day had been ruined by somebody else, someone just not even acknowledging her and not paying attention to her. And she had talked about how she had spent like, $300 on, getting the right outfit and, kind of putting time into that morning. And that was like, half of one of her paychecks. And I realized she had put so much effort into that, just that one incident or that one event. But someone in leadership wasn't even aware that she was feeling that way. And I just made this commitment to myself right then and there. I thought, gosh, if I'm ever in leadership or I have, the responsibility for other people in my charge, that is never going to happen. Many, many years later, when I became a district manager, my team used to make fun of me. I usually wouldn't even go say hi to the branch manager until I had gone around and talked to every single person that worked in the branch. My branch manager used to say, "Gosh, you're the only person that knows like the first and last name of the entire region." And I always thought, yeah, they work here, indirectly for me, but they're working for me in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to know who they are. And And that became very important to me because I never wanted to imagine that someone could be crying in a break room somewhere and I wouldn't know about it because they had hoped for this time with me or this moment with me and they didn't get it. And that really drove a lot of success, and really became kind of a profound impact on who I became as a leader. Your people matter. You spend time with them. You get to know who they are. They're the ones making it all happen. They're the most important. And so I never forgot that. And again, it was just a month before my 18th birthday back in 2000. It was 21 years ago. And I hadn't even gone to college yet. And that still remember it vividly. So thank you for
Wow.
asking.
No, no, that's a phenomenal story. And I like to go back and grab a couple golden nuggets that you just
Okay.
handed the listeners. Human element in business is vital. It is critical, crucial, important. Reality is everyone that you are interfacing in. It doesn't matter if you are low man on the totem pole. It doesn't matter if you are the CEO, the COO. It doesn't matter if you are a shipper or a receiver. It doesn't matter if you work for someone or if you own your own business. If you're a salesperson, if you're a direct sales leader, it doesn't matter. The person that you are interacting with, if they're an employee, if they're a downline, if they're a coworker, if they're a prospective client, if they're an existing client, they're human. They have a life. And it's divine human desire, it's divine human need to be recognized, to be appreciated, to be accepted, to be seen, heard, understood. And so many people show up in such foveal vision and such tunnel vision for the outcome that they actually miss the interaction.
That's right. Yeah, what you're
So I
saying is so true. We get so wrapped up in achievement or accomplishment. I'm sure those executives that day had a million things to do and meetings and
yeah.
appointments, and I got numbers to deliver. We need to do more things like this. That sometimes we miss those inner workings, how that's going on. And like you say, Stacy, that human interaction, it's kind of where everything starts. And especially for those of us in leadership or serving others, whether like you said, it's a vendor, a client, someone in your family. We're never a one-man show. Ultimately, we do nothing alone. And so to not pay close attention to how the people around you are feeling and what they're thinking and what their goals are and their dreams are is a huge misstep. And I honestly, I see it happen all the time. I've seen the very best of leaders. I've seen kind of the very worst. And, it's like the old saying goes, you never really care what someone knows until you know how much they care. And so everything you've said, I found to be true, in droves over and over again.
The sooner anyone in business, doesn't matter if you're in business for yourself or you're in someone else's business, the sooner people realize that we are in the business of people, doesn't
Yes,
matter what you do,
that's right.
that's when you really elevate. That's when you really
That's
play
right.
a totally different game,
That's right.
right? So I'm curious because let's see, you've ran over 10,000 miles. You've rode thousands and thousands of miles on a bike. I have a friend that does century rides. And I'm curious, when I look at business people, I look at transferable skill sets and transferable mindsets. Having been all Army softball and all Army basketball, it takes a very specific mind to show up at that level, and it takes a very specific mind to succeed. So for me, I always knew and I always believed how I did some things is how I did everything, and how I did the little things is how I did the big things. So everything you do in life, it seems like you show up and play full out. Can you talk about what you really tap into and what that looks like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many things I could say. The first that comes to mind, and just to give some credit here, Carol Dweck's book Mindset changed my life. And
Yeah.
one of the things I realized after I read that material and really thought about kind of the mindset I'd have for a lot of my life, and as well as I had done in some cases, I found myself to have what's called a fixed mindset for a lot of my life. And I really kind of compared that to the mindset I wanted to have, which was this growth mindset. And sort of to break it down, and at least in the way I understand it, definitely not a researcher or a psychologist, and so I give that as a full disclosure. But ultimately, if we approach life always wanting to get better and evolve and grow and learn, there's a few things that happen if you have that agreement with yourself. Number one, you don't mind failure, and you don't mind making mistakes, and you don't mind when things are hard and when things are a struggle, because you know that at the end, all of that is just part of the process. It's part of the
Hmm.
journey at helping you, become stronger. As Kobe Bryant says, and I mentioned him before, to master your craft, to really hone, that skill that you have, or that game that you play, or whatever it is that makes you. And so you don't have to be afraid of those things and run away from them. And that's kind of an exciting breakthrough to have mentally, because once you have that, you don't kind of turn your nose up at things just because they're hard or a struggle, or because you're not initially great at them. Running became fun for me because I just had this goal of, I just want to get better. It doesn't matter what my time is. It doesn't matter if I'm winning the award. I just want to finish. And just the fact that I'm out here, like, doing something that had been so difficult for me for so long is a huge accomplishment. And when I approached it that way, the bad days, the sweaty, ugly, tear-filled days of, like, oh my gosh, it ended up being 85 degrees. This race is, on 8 million hills that I didn't see coming. My headphones died, and I don't even have music to listen to. Gosh, I got a blister on my foot. Now I'm kind of in pain. None of that kind of bothered me, or became the end of the world, because I would say, well, this is great. This is great that that's happening, because look how challenged you get today. And if you can mentally, go through that challenge and still feel good about it, that's going to help you in other areas of your life. And I found that to be true. So I think the biggest thing that helps us when we're getting better at anything, and I totally agree, how we do one thing is how we do everything. But when we approach business, our relationships, our athletics, our sports, with this mindset of, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm here to learn. It's a process. I'm going to make mistakes and fail. That's okay. It's supposed to be hard, but that's the joy of it. Again, it's kind of like what I said in the beginning. It kind of gives us that stamina to go on. The second thing I think that is important, and this is just, not a Carol Dweck mindset concept, but it's just sort of, true. Habits can either be our friend or our foe. A lot of our life is run by our subconscious mind, and our subconscious seems to gravitate towards what's familiar and what's comfortable and what we've done a million times before. And as we teach our subconscious mind, habits, and we can teach it bad habits or good habits. But once we teach it the habit of, hey, I get up every morning and I train, I practice, I go on my ride, I go on my run, I do some sort of physical activity. That's what we do. Over time, it becomes not as much of a struggle to get your subconscious excited to do it. I've been working at that for so many years that now, on days where I don't go work out, maybe I have to take an early flight, or potentially there's an event or something just stands in my way. It's rare, but something will stand in my way that'll prevent me from getting that morning training or that morning workout in.
Mhm.
I feel off all day. My subconscious is almost saying, why aren't we working out today? What's going on here? We're supposed to be
Mhm.
doing that. And so creating disciplines, habits, routines, and doing them for enough months or years that they become part of who you are really, really helps us, to get the hours in that we need to practice, like you said, sports or anything in life.
Mhm.
But when we're inconsistent, and we don't go if it's raining, and we do go if it's good weather, or we don't go if we get invited to a morning brunch, but we do go if we have no plans. When we allow the outside kind of forces to dictate, our habits, instead of saying, I just do this no matter what, this is my routine and I'm going to stick to it, we create a world of hurt for ourselves, because we never really develop kind of the routine and regimen needed to say, this is just kind of who I am. It's what I do. And that
Mhm.
sometimes gets too challenging to keep up with. So I think those are the top two things I would say that have kind of allowed me to, practice sports, and definitely not with excellence, but at a level that I'm really enjoying it at.
Yeah, and everything that you just mentioned is applicable in any area of life. I mean,
Yes.
when you really look at success in relationships, or success in your finances, or success in your journey in
Yes.
your health, or in business, or in sales, or in leadership, or in your spirituality, or your self-care, your self-mastery, it's all a culmination of consistency. It really
Yes.
is.
Absolutely.
So yeah, yes, I think that's a very valuable point. So I wanna hit on something, because you said your number one point was you learn to not mind failure. So how has failure been instrumental to your success?
I think one of the biggest failings I had, and I talk about this a lot. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Was back in 2015. I went through this really rough breakup, and I know all of us have been through rough breakups. This one was bad. I was blindsided. I thought I was going to marry this guy. We had been living together. I had this whole life kind of planned out for us. And when he kind of walked out with no notice, and just sort of just said, "I'm done," and there wasn't an opportunity really in that moment, at least, to have a discussion about it, I realized something had gone wrong. And for the first time in my life, I decided it was my fault. And I figured out how to use that event to get better. It was the first time I hired a therapist, which I strongly recommend. Maybe it's not for everyone. Until that moment, I had already sort of seen that as a weakness. So you have to have someone to help you, like, feel happy, or be psychologically sound. It's much more than that. It has been probably one of the biggest game changers for me. I have this objective, unbiased kind of third party that's not a friend or a family member, or wrapped up really, intricately in my life. And she's kind of there to call me out on my stuff and sort of say, Amy, you got issues. And I started seeing her. That was 6 years ago. I still spend time with her biweekly today. She's been a huge help in my life. She encouraged me to read a whole bunch of books. One of the ones I just mentioned, Mindset, was one of the first I read. Multiple others that followed it. My boss has been a fantastic mentor to me. But that failure, when I looked back and sort of understood, what was happening, kind of that moment of crisis or trauma, it was strong enough and stark enough and emotional enough that it made me want to do something different. And sometimes, we see this, sometimes we don't. People go to the hospital for a heart attack or a stroke. They come back, they still don't change their diet or their regimen. But ultimately, major trauma or tough events can be very powerful. I had an old friend that had the saying, that which hurts instructs. And if we allow ourselves to use failure as a teaching moment and kind of sit with it and say, okay, why did this happen? What led to this? What was I doing that maybe didn't lead to my success in that moment? And then we get to say, how do I learn from that? How do I act different next time? Failure can just be one of the best things that happened to us. I became a very different person after that breakup, and ultimately I had failed. I hadn't been a great partner. I hadn't really sought to understand. It had kind of been all about me, and I hadn't even really noticed that my partner was struggling. And I just knew that I didn't want to have that outcome again. I didn't want to be blindsided and alone and confused as to why. And I made this choice to say, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to change. Same thing with running. Some of my business failures. We learn a lot from our mistakes, but only when we allow ourselves to. We have to be able to sit. It's kind of like watching tape on Monday morning. If you're a sports coach, you go back and you review, the plays second by second, and you can say, okay, that right there, that moment, that thing, that's what we need to correct. And most people don't do that with failure. It doesn't feel good to them, so they try to just get past it as quickly as possible and move on to the next thing. But if we say, okay, I know failure is a part of success, these are the things that are going to help me get better in the future. We pay attention to it and we allow it to teach us. We are so blessed and grateful for the failures we have, because without them, we can't get better. It's just impossible. It's just really impossible to even imagine someone that's going to be have a perfect story from childhood and infancy to through the end of their life, that they're never going to struggle. If that's the case, they probably haven't challenged themselves enough. So I'm embracing it, spending time to evaluate it and look at it, and then figuring out how we can learn from it. If we do that, our failures become the greatest help we have to becoming who we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes part of our tool belt if
Yes,
we so choose to allow it to be. It'll
that's right.
either become part of our backpack that we have to carry through life as a burden, or it
Yes.
becomes part of our tool belt that we get to carry through life as a learning and a tool to apply, so that when something starts arising in our life or our business again, we've got this tool to go, I know what to do with you, right?
You made a comment
So,
before, Stacy, about suffering and how that's a choice. I smiled at
mhm,
that, and I think I've heard you say that before. I sort of have a similar quote. Pain is inevitable. We're going to have some pain. Things are going to hurt sometimes, but
mhm,
suffering is optional. And so we get to
mhm,
choose how we feel about failure and that healthy relationship with failure. Some people really have that down. They're always much more successful. They get to say failure is a good thing. I like failure because when I'm failing, I get to, get to the other side of who I am if I push through and endure it and choose just not to view this as a terrible event. I don't have to suffer. I'm here to learn from it. Again, it goes quicker, faster, and it helps us get to where we want to be. It's much more meaningful for us. So I love that quote you
yeah.
say. I think it ties in perfectly to that concept of failure and how we approach it and look at it.
So I'll share with you where that quote evolved from.
Please.
When I was in the Army, I had a drill sergeant, because their whole thing is to physically condition you.
That's
And
right.
I was already very physically conditioned, playing at the level of basketball, I'd always played at, playing at the level of softball, I'd always played at. I was in really good shape. So when I went into basic, it took a lot to challenge me. So what the drill sergeants were doing with me then was holding me to the guys times, the guys
Yeah.
standards, to really push me, because at that time women could do push-ups on their knees and they only had to do 25, whereas a man couldn't be on their knees and they had to do 60. So that's what they would do with me. And I remember getting to what was known as TMF, total muscle fatigue,
Mm.
and getting there and just like wanting to give up, but my mindset saying no, continue, push through it, because I was never someone who ever quit in anything. um, and I remember getting to a point where I was in so much pain, and the drill sergeants then get into your head, quit, quit,
Mm.
quit, because they
That's
want to
right.
be that voice that shows you where your limit is. And when you're a soldier and when you're in war, there is zero limit, because if you find a limit, that determines whether or not you live or not.
That's right.
And I remember him telling me, because I was telling him, I'm hurting, my muscles were hurting. And he goes, soldier, pain is your friend. Pain is your friend, because as long as you feel it, you're alive.
That's right.
The second you stop feeling it, be concerned. So for me, from that point forward, I've learned to really embrace that journey,
Yeah.
because if you're living, you're learning,
That's
right?
right. Love that.
So I like to switch gears right now, and I know something that the majority of our listeners don't. So let's pull the rabbit out of the head and expose it. And that is, I know that you are building a leadership coaching and training company. And a lot of people would step back and go, Amy, you have this very successful career. You're at a stage where you can ride high. Your future's made. Why would you leave it? Why would you step out of job security and step into another opportunity or create another opportunity?
Yeah, I've been trying to answer that question myself for years, but I have come up with an answer. So it's
Okay.
timely that you're asking, Stace. First things first, I another book that's influenced me profoundly is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Hmm.
This is a huge phenomenon. I think it came out in about 1989, and all through the
Hmm.
90s, Stephen Covey's framework and the Franklin Covey Corp just, resounded in businesses and organizations around the world. The book, 60 million copies sold, is the version I have. I'm not sure what they're up to today. And the work is just phenomenal. So another highly recommend. I'm just putting in plugs for authors all over the book map today. But Stephen Covey says that if we want to have fulfillment in our lives, what we think about in our minds has to be congruent with what we do and the action we take. And he also talks about how important it is to have vision for our life. You imagine the future. It's not just what's in front of you today and kind of being reactive to opportunities that come and just working hard and climbing the ladder. It's to really challenge yourself to be proactive and then imagine this end in mind that's different than your current reality. And so I put a lot of work into writing a vision statement. I highly recommend that people do this and really think about, like, what do I want to be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, way down the road. And it can be a very aspirational activity. You're writing about things and you're seeing yourself in a way and in a light that you just aren't yet. And as I wrote the vision statement and I rewrote it and rewrote it, CEO of financial services organization just didn't keep, making its way onto the page. But what did make its way onto the page was that I revolutionized the world, with these ideas around leadership and mindset and happiness and fulfillment that have helped change my life so much. These tools that I got so blessed to get back in 2015 when I felt like my life was falling apart and the guy I wanted to be with didn't want to be with me and I didn't know what to do. And back when I had this doubt, like, oh, I could never run a marathon. Oh, I'll never be able to ski down a mountain. That's too scary. I can't do those things. And how I figured out how to overcome those things, I want to share those practices and those principles with others. And so I think that's the biggest reason is that, it feels like the right end in mind for me. When I get excited about, like, the job that I have and the value I could potentially offer the world, it's in that way. And so it would just be such a crime or departure from who I am to not pursue it. It'd be kind of almost turning my back on everything I believe. There's this thing I want, I imagine it. And we do this a lot. We think about the life we want to have. Oh, I wish I had a better house, a better car, a better partner. I wish I had better vacations. We don't do anything about it. We just kind of dream and then we go back to our real life. And that's just such a shame in my mind is, why wouldn't you work your butt off to make those things happen? And I think that leads me to kind of point number 2. I want to do it because I think it's going to be really, really difficult. And I want to challenge myself and have that pain so I know I'm alive. I don't want to take the easy way out anymore. I want to do something that scares me a little bit and feels kind of like a risk. And I think it's going to be really uncomfortable because I want to practice what I preach about. Get yourself into that discomfort zone. Always be learning. Don't be afraid of failure. I never want to not do something because I'm afraid. And I think I spent years kind of be afraid of, like, well, starting my own business and turning down that guaranteed salary from corporate America. At some point I realized that's exactly why you need to do it. You're wanting to help other people overcome their fears. You got to overcome your own fear first. So here I am.
I love it. I love it. You made a really good point, and that's about the gray zone, the comfort zone. People stop living when they exist in their comfort zone.
That's right.
Because no matter how uncomfortable they are, they stay there, and it takes something really bad or really good for them to exit it. And when you are comfortable being comfortable, or when you are comfortable being uncomfortable in a way that your life isn't serving you, then you start daydreaming and you start ignoring the daydreams because for you, you're not looking at them as the vision or as life's potential. You're looking at it as a dream. And reality is, we live in a world where anything's possible. And because we live in a world where anything's possible, then that means we live in a world where everything's possible because you control your outcome. You may not control the environment. However, you can control whether or not you choose to take the actions to make that kind of shift happen in your life.
That's right.
And
We
so
go
many
through, I
people
think,
disregard
life.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of us go through life kind of citing circumstances.
Yep.
Oh, this happened to me and I can't control that. I got a bad boss, or it's been even COVID. I think is a great example of look what has happened. I'm depressed. I've gained weight. I've lost my job. This has been a terrible year, all because of COVID. Well,
Yeah.
that's true. COVID's been tough, but a lot of people have had tremendous success during COVID, and the difference is not because I don't think that they were blessed or lucky or just in the right place at the right time. One of the things I noticed is for the people that feel like this has been a great year, they made an active choice to make it a great year. They got laid off from a job and said, oh, good. Now I have time to work on my resume, to read more
Yep.
books, to actually figure out like the job I really want to have. I have time to do that personal development project, whether it be, repainting the house or, resurfacing an airplane or just, getting more into shape. Like I can go out and start walking every day safely with my mask on, but I can make decisions to do that. We're going to save a ton of money. We're not eating out anymore,
Mhm.
spending money on booze. So many people approached it that way. Not as many as people that approached it like, oh gosh, it just has to be a bad year. But the reality
Mhm.
is life is really only 10% what happens to us, and it's 90% how we respond to it. And we get a choice every day. It's probably the biggest thing I wish people knew is that they always have a choice in how they respond and how they choose to respond. But so many people just feel like, well, this has happened. What other choice would I have other than be angry or be upset? And it's like you have every choice to do anything you want and respond however you want. And I think
Mhm.
that really ties into what you're saying.
No, I love it. I love it. So looking at success, you had success in traditional education. You've had success in traditional employment. You are now putting your strategies, your mindset, your skill sets, all of this knowledge into pursuing success in your business. What piece of advice can you give someone that hasn't achieved success yet and is pursuing it?
Yeah, there's a few things that stand out. Number one, I think it's to find someone that has done what you want to do and spend time with them. So whether it's someone on the athletic field, it's someone in business, it's someone in personal relationship kind of expert that's been married a certain number of years and has a happy home life. Find someone that has had success in the area where you're looking to have success and hire them, either at a charge or just sort of, at no charge because they do it out of the goodness of their heart, but to mentor and coach you. We so often look at people that have things and just assume that somehow they got lucky or blessed or they had different circumstances and they, had something that we don't have, they can do it, but we can't. And what usually we find if we say, how did you do that? What did it take? You'll get tons of, pieces of advice. We tend not to follow those things because sometimes we look at that and say, well, I don't have that success. You're telling me what to do to get it. I don't really want to do those things. It requires me to make a change. If I were doing those things, I might be successful too. I'm not. And so we kind of discard it. But what I find is that if we hire the right coaches or mentors or just surround ourselves with people that are doing the things that we want to do, and we really pay close attention to how they're doing it, success is not a secret. It's not like we got to reinvent the wheel every month or year. But so often we just kind of ignore you always say, Stacy, success leaves clues. We ignore the clues that are being left for us. And so I think that's number one is to find a person that can help us. I'm probably doing these out of order, but even before we find someone to help us, it's really important for us to identify what we want. Sometimes we identify what we don't want. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to do that. But we don't really get kind of a positive affirmation of like what do I want? And I do think that end in mind, that kind of vision statement helps us kind of map out as clear as it can be what the dream actually is. It should be so clear in our mind that when we wake up, we are just eager to step into it. And so, setting unspecific goals is not helpful. Oh, I'd like to lose some weight. Oh, I want a better job. Oh, I just wish that I was like happier. We have to kind of identify, X to Y by when. And so I'm here, I want to get there, and I want to do it in this time frame. even if we find the right people to help us, but we don't have that kind of laid out, it's really hard for people to help us, because if we're not clear on what we want, other people can't be clear on it either. So I think those are two big things. Find someone that, is willing to help you, know what you want. Probably the third thing is, say, I'm going to be willing to put the time in. I have a friend who always hashtags on her runs, how bad do you want it? I met her on one of my goals is to run a half a full marathon in all 50 states. And I've been running with a company called Rock and Roll. And I've met a ton of other runners that have fantastic mindsets, lots of achievers and success on the kind of this rock and roll trail. They go to about 26 cities a year. And I met all sorts of people. I was surrounding myself with people that were getting to these cities. They were winning what's called, Hall of Fame. They were running race after race. And we had to sacrifice a lot to do that. It was, you're out, first thing after work on Friday afternoon. Sometimes you're flying the red eye in Monday morning to go back to work. You're running, a 10K on a Saturday, a half or a full on a Sunday. And we would all spend a lot of time together. And how bad do you want it is kind of, her thing. And you have to do at least 15 cities to make Hall of Fame. And so we had to find 15 different race weekends around the US and the world each year to, I can get to those. Sometimes it meant juggling, other priorities. You didn't get to go to a friend's, birthday party or, a baby shower. It was kind of a lot of sacrifice, but I always kind of came back to that, how bad do I want it? If I want it badly and I'm willing to put the work in, and I don't, get impatient with myself, like, oh my God, it's been 6 months. Why isn't it happening? I stay the course. Success will come. Those are probably the top three things I'd say. Lots of others that I look forward to sharing with people, in the future, but those, are three that come to mind really quickly.
No, I love it. So I read in your bio that you are writing a book on leadership. So, leadership is such a broad, diverse topic. And before we get into the book, I'm curious, what to you is the difference between management and leadership?
Yeah, I feel like I've been borrowing a lot during this interview, but I can't help it. Everything I know came from someone else. And so I guess it goes back to that, get successful people to help you. So Peter Drucker, in my mind, defined it the best. And what he said ultimately is management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. And the way that made sense to me is if you imagine a ladder on the wall, great managers will figure out how to get up the ladder as quickly, as accurately, as effortlessly as possible. And, leadership is about saying, is that ladder even on the right wall? Should it maybe be leaning against this other wall? And one thing I just really want to say, and this is important to me personally, for years, I wanted to be a leader, not a manager necessarily. I always saw managers in the branch of like the teller supervisor or the assistant manager. They manage the audit, they do the operations, they make sure, you don't get sued. And the leader of the branch is like all about the sales and the service. And leadership kind of has this sexier, if I can say that, or more glamorous perception, like, well, we need leaders, not managers. I really believe you need both. And in most successful organizations and companies, and even sometimes in the same person, having some managerial skills and leadership skills, it's kind of crucial that they're both there. I sort of pride myself on being maybe more of a leader. I like big picture stuff. I like the strategy, but it's really important to get into the tactics at times as well. And a business or a group with only leaders or only managers is going to topple, one side or the other. And so one is not necessarily better than the other. And I think that's kind of a misconception a lot of people have. But in my mind, that is the difference between the two.
I think, having been a leader in the Army and a manager, I really think, because I was a squad leader. However, I was also responsible for intercepting the communications and everything like that. I really think in order to be able to achieve success, you must have both. You have to have the understanding of the differences. You have to have the understanding of the similarities. And it's important that you can separate the roles so that you can divide and conquer. Because one thinks differently than the other. One looks for efficiency, the other one looks for effectiveness.
The best assistant manager I ever had when I was spending time as a branch manager, I worked for Wells Fargo. Her name was Loretta Brown. I don't think she'll mind if I give her a shout out. She did not want to become a branch manager or a district manager, although I thought she would have been really great at it. We had to have a lot of tough conversations. And back at that time, I was still learning. I was kind of trying to push something on her that really isn't in line with her skill set. And now years later, and she and I still keep in touch too, but I realized, oh, she was perfectly suited for what she was doing. But she used to come to me on a daily basis and just kind of put piles of things on my desk and say, Amy, you are going to cause us so many audit exceptions. You're missing a signature here. You've forgotten that. I need you to call back this client. And I'd be taking things from her. Oh yeah, that's Bob. I can give him a call. He'll pick right up. And she was like, you're going to give me a heart attack. But she was a really important complement to my skill set. And the beauty of her was one time I got very sick when I was working there, and I was out for almost 2 weeks. And she led the branch in my absence. We had this thermometer on the wall that was kind of my baby. I was coloring it in on all of our sales results. And when I got back, the team had continued to meet every morning, do their huddles, and the thermometer had been colored in. And I was kind of like, Loretta, did you do this? And she had just kind of said, well, no, but you always empower and involve other people to do things, and that's kind of yours. But I asked, the team to do it, and they got really excited about it. And I realized that she had led for me while I was gone. She had gotten everyone fired up to deliver. And so she had that skill as well. But boy, you definitely need both. And any team with just all one or the other, like you said, it kind of takes a village. And so when we focus on just one person's skills, we miss that, we're interdependent as a society, and what someone brings to the table, another person can't and won't. And so really great leaders figure out how to put all that together in a way that everybody's kind of weaknesses are covered by someone else's strengths. And that's kind of my style of leadership, is helping teams be complementary in their skill sets so that it all can get done.
So you mind giving a sneak peek on your upcoming book?
I'd love to.
Awesome. So tell us about it. It's about leadership. Leadership is a very diversified subject. So I'm curious, what's your focus?
Yeah. So there's, I don't know if I'll give everything away, but as it stands today, and I'm kind of wrapping it up, there's 7 key practices, and it's not just because I love the 7 habits. It just ended up being 7. It was what made sense to me that leaders, have or don't have, do or don't do. I see a lot of, folks in leadership and management practicing 3 or 4 of them. My real belief is that when you bring all 7 together, something magical happens. Some of the, favorites of mine, there's a practice on you have to involve other people. If you don't get your people involved in dialogues, in the decision-making, in, just helping craft the course, you get full-blown breakthrough results and execution. You just, the micromanagement, the directive of let me tell you what to do and you carry it out, it just does not work in this day and age anymore. We're in the information age. Millennials want to be involved. They want feedback. And so doing things with people is critical. So that involving others is a huge one. Another one of the practices, just to give you a sneak peek for a couple, encouraging the heart or encouraging other people's energy and enthusiasm is critical. Sometimes, people feel like, well, I pay you, and you got promoted last year. And so, you're doing a good job, right? People really want to hear, and that looks different. And that's kind of part of that section for each person, but people want to hear that they're doing a good job. They want to know that their work is meaningful, that they matter, that they're valuable, that they're making a difference. When they don't feel that or know that, the work can become dull and boring. And, people always say you don't leave a company, you leave your boss. It's a great way to have people leave you, is when you don't spend time valuing and appreciating them. So 7 practices, you do them all together, you have something magical. You miss a couple steps, you might have a team that's not, experiencing a ton of attrition and turnover, and maybe you kind of, hit some metrics, but you're never going to, have, again, breakthrough performance where things grow exponentially. People are so fiercely loyal to you that they have no plans to leave. Everyone loves their job. Like they can't wait to get there on Monday morning. You're not going to get there unless you practice all 7. And again, this comes from years of seeing, again, the best, the worst, everything in between. But I was able to narrow it down to 7 things that really good leaders do that the more immature leaders, for lack of a better word, won't do. And so that's kind of a little bit of a sneak peek. I don't know if that was enough, but that's what I got for you today.
No, I love it. I love it. So I'm curious, will you share with our listeners your acronym for leadership?
It's virtues, and it's VIRTUES. TUES. And I think some of them are kind of guessable and a little obvious, but I think there's probably two of them in there that most people would be surprised by. And so what I'll do, I know I'll be sharing my information shortly here, but on my coaching page, anyone that can accurately guess the 7 will get a free half hour of consultative coaching with me. So anyone that can guess it before it's
Sweet.
released, yeah, I'll do
That's
that out.
awesome.
That's right.
Okay. That's fantastic. All right. So make sure you grab a pen because she's going to be sharing her info with you pretty soon. So Amy, welcome to the signature question of our show. And the signature question is, what is selling without selling mean to you?
That's that's a great question, Stacy. You're not easy. Uh, I've taken a lot of workshops and classes on this concept of consultative selling, and I think a lot of people would answer it that way. To me, it can be that, but I think it's something even more profound. And the most important aspect is that we care about the people that we sell to, and we know them well enough to understand what their true needs and wants and values are. When we've taken the time to build rapport, and that's kind of a buzzword, build rapport, get to know people, ask questions, but there's something really special when we do it in a genuine, authentic way, where we say, kind of like I did with the Thompsons way back when in 2004, although I had probably no idea I was doing it at that time. But understanding that someone's going through a marital, struggle, and they're having financial difficulties, and they just want to go on a vacation, and they're worried sick about, their money and their income. I think from that experience, I learned, oh, I should know that about people. I could have even helped them in maybe more ways had I known that. But when we get to know someone through dialogue and questions and time spent with them, that we know what makes them tick. And then we say, because I care about you so much and I know what you're trying to accomplish here, this is my recommendation. This is my suggestion. And there's no pressure to that. It's not like take it or leave it. It's just kind of, this is what I would really do. The solution should be so well matched life that they want to buy it. They see the value that it would have, and they really feel like the advice is coming from someone that has their best interest at heart, not the company's best interest or the salesperson's best interest, but the recipient's best interest, the client. And when we sell that way, it's not even really selling. It's just matching, wants and needs to maybe products and services.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of plan to do for a living. If someone's having, a lack of success or frustration, that my job's boring, or there's some aspect of my life that just isn't perfect, if people are open to sharing with me kind of what those things are, I know I can help them achieve higher levels of success and build that better life. So it's not really even selling, it's helping people change their lives in meaningful ways. And again, it starts with us really caring about who they are and what they want, and taking the time to find those things out.
And reality is there's a starting point before that, because the only way that you can ever meet someone where they're at to take them where it is they want to go is if you are really showing up for the right reasons.
I love that.
If desperation is removed, if the money blocks are removed, if the triggers are removed, this allows you to show up as the human in a human element engagement. I tell people all the time, you have to do the inner work for the outer to ever work. And it's because where you go, you follow. And if you're having a hard time paying your bills, or if you make money and lose money, or if you have a hard time with relationships, well, who do you think's engaging with the person in front of you? So selling without selling for me is all of that, and the understanding of it's about you and it's never about you. Because it's about you, because you're who's showing up. You're the common denominator in every equation in your life. And it's not about you, because if you're showing up for the sale and you're avoiding showing up as a solution provider, then you're selling for the wrong reasons and you're playing a numbers game. And sales is not a numbers game. Sales is a science.
That's right. I love that.
So welcome to the random round, Amy. And I believe that success leaves clues. And I believe that in extracting these clues so that our listeners can go, hey, I really like that, and incorporate that into their life. So I have 2 questions for you. First, what does your morning ritual look like?
Love it. Few things on the list. Number one, each day starts with gratitude, and that gets me into a headspace where I can actually appreciate, notice, and focus on all the good things that not only are going to happen to me that day, and there's always plenty, but the ones that I'm going to create. And so when I start and let email or the internet or, people's demands be the first thing, I'm already kind of behind the eight ball. So starting off each morning and immediately saying and being specific, three things I'm grateful for that happened in the previous day, that has been crucial. I have a morning planner. It's called the High Performance Planner. I fill that out every morning. It tells me my intention for the day. What do you want to accomplish today? What's the situation that might trip you up today or stress you out? What's something that is going to be difficult today? What do you need to work on today that's important? Who do you need to connect with today? And again, more credit. Brendan Burchard created this. He has a book, High Performance Habits. He creates these planners. I fill it out, routinely every single morning. So that's kind of, gets me in the mindset. I think it's very similar to other other people's meditations or yoga, that they spend this kind of Zen, power 20 minutes alone. That's kind of my version of that. And then the second thing that's really important to me, it doesn't happen every day because sometimes something will mean that it has to happen at night, but 90% of the time or more, I get physical activity and exercise to start my day. I go run, I ride, I bike. I make a point of trying to do it outside, and 90% of my workouts are that way. I get to take in the sunshine, the fresh air. I see other people. I sort of decompress or disconnect from the day as a whole, and get kind of lost in my thoughts. And so those are the top two things. Number three is really looking at my plan for the day, the calendar. We get so stuck in the whirlwind of I got to do this and I got to get that completed. I have to send that email. We sometimes forget to prioritize, the things that matter most, the wildly important goals, those big rocks. And I do my calendar and manage my Outlook sometimes a week to 2 or even 3 weeks in advance. I know where I'm going to be on a Tuesday at 11, not just Monday night, but days before. But I check in with that calendar. I make sure there's not any overlaps. I like to make sure I've got a half an hour or an hour of free time in the middle of the day. And I already kind of plan and scheme, okay, what am I going to do with that time? Where's that phone call to my dentist going to go? Where's my healthy lunch going to go? Where's, just 15 minutes of kind of scrolling on Instagram, if that's what I choose to do, going to go. So everything is planned. It's never just, life's happening to me and I had no clue. It's the day is structured, and it's structured by my design. So those are the few of the things that I do each morning to get the day off on the right foot. And Stacey, I got to tell you, I love the question because so few people have a morning routine. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons that their lives aren't working out the way they plan to. The day runs them instead of them running their day. So whatever they do, because there's no real right or wrong answer, but I mean, just starting by having some, morning routine, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question, what's your favorite word and why?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. You have caught me completely and totally off guard there. And that's the first time I feel that way. I only get one. I mean, I'm writing a book for.
I know, and you're a wordsmith. Lord knows that.
Gosh, I'm going to go with mindset, and I know we've talked about it, here and there. And I think the reason why is because it's encompassing of so many other words. I thought about happy. I thought about present. I thought about excited. I thought about fulfillment, joy. Leadership is definitely a favorite word of mine. All of these words are really important to me, and they have significant, but life is about our mindset. It's really, like you said earlier, how we show up in the world, that's a matter of mindset. If we're successful or not, that's a matter of mindset. The choices we make, it's a matter of mindset. So I like mindset because anytime someone's having a problem or a struggle, it can always be resolved in mindset. It's something we control. It's right here. We carry it with us from the day we're born to the day that we die. And so much is under that umbrella. And when we work on our mindset, literally everything else can change. And so I will go with mindset if I only get one.
I love it. No, I absolutely love it. And yes, mindset's one of my favorite words too. And if someone asked me that question, I'd really have to step back because I think the word would change depending on my state. and depending on circumstances. And for me, I think probably one of my most empowering words or favorite words is choice.
Love
It
that.
really is.
Yep.
So Amy, it's been phenomenal talking with you today. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know what your days look like, and it means a lot to me. If our listeners want to reach out to you, connect with you, how can they find you?
Sounds good. There's a couple ways. I am on LinkedIn, Amy Chambers, and on my profile, dozens of folks that I've worked with for and around for years, have, put in a couple words. So it at least gives people a kind of a glimpse into if I am who I say I am. And so whenever I'm having a bad day, I go back and I read those, not to make myself feel good, but to say, am I living up to what these former direct reports and employees have said about me and how I've impacted their life over the years. So that's kind of the favorite part of my profile, is just what do other people think about how I've impacted them. So that's on LinkedIn. And then I do have a Facebook page, Coach Amy Chambers, and anyone can find me on there. I'll respond within 24 hours always, and really look forward to interacting with anyone that wants to talk about any of these concepts: leadership, mindset, happiness, fulfillment, success, and selling without selling. That would be outstanding. So those are the top two ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Your success is important to me, and it's also important to me to make sure that these episodes are valuable to you. I would love for you to do a few things right now. I'd love for you to hop over to Instagram and follow us at Pivot Point Advantage. That's hop over to Instagram and follow us at Pivot Point Advantage. Second, I'd love it if you'd head over to Facebook and join our Sell Without Selling community. That's head over to Facebook and join our Sell Without Selling community. We have an immense amount of interaction on both platforms. We also share different information on both platforms, so we look forward to seeing you there. Last and definitely not least, I love to chat with you, give feedback on the episodes, and find out any topics that you're interested in to help make this podcast more powerful and helpful to you achieving the success you've always dreamed of, desired, and deserved. Head over to pivotpointadvantage.com/talk to Stacy. That's pivotpointadvantage.com/talk to Stacy. Let's get a 15-minute call on the schedule. I look forward to getting to know you. Always remember this: choice is a powerful thing, and suffering is always optional. Get out of your way so that you can get on your way, so you can finally have your way. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Whether it's mastering your mindset, communication, or success, we have more ways to keep you on your journey to greatness. Be sure to visit us at pivotpointadvantage.com for exclusive online training programs, success-specific courses, and more ways to connect to Stacy directly to help you achieve the financial success you've always desired, dreamed, and deserved. That's all available on pivotpointadvantage.com.